If you're having suicidal thoughts or feelings or feel like you have no hope, please call 988. There, you can talk to someone who not only cares about your story, but cares about you. Please reach out today. Thomas P. Murphy once said, "Minutes are worth more than money. Spend them wisely." At Minutes Wisely, we take that to heart. Our mission is to decrease veteran suicide by providing life-changing experiences for veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families. We believe that we can make a lasting impact by rekindling a sense of purpose and fostering community through sponsored tickets to sporting events. These experiences are not just about the game, they're about the moments that can change lives. A simple sporting event can boost joy and instill a sense of renewed hope and purpose for those who have served. Join us in making a difference, become a moment maker, and empower a veteran with rediscovered hope. Visit minuteswisely.com for more information and to get involved. Together, we can make every moment count.
Good evening, and welcome back to another episode of TNY. Tonight, I'm here to get the life story of Michael. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome, man. So I was running a little bit late today. As my listeners know, that had a rough 2025. I just got back from my doctor's appointment. Every 3 months I go to get checked to see where the cancer's at. And this was my third 3-month check, and the best Christmas present ever. My numbers are at 0, so there's no trace of cancer anymore.
That's awesome.
I had surgery back in April, so it's going really well. I have one more 3-month checkup, and then he said he'll move me on to the 6-month program. So it's moving in the right direction. It's still
That's
scary as hell, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
I'll say, before we hit record, you're talking about your podcast is about faith in the military, and I will tell you what, faith has gotten me through the last 12 months like you would not believe.
Absolutely.
December 10th is when my doctor sat down and told my wife and I that I had cancer. So I've been on this journey for 12 months now. And if it wasn't for God, I'd have no idea where I'd be at, because I literally took all this heavy stuff and I said, God, I can't handle this. This is yours.
Yeah. That's all you can do in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I gave him all the heavy stuff in my life, and he took it and ran with it. I was very fortunate. I have, got my cross everywhere I go. When I woke up from surgery on April 23rd, the very first thing I saw was, and everything was blurry as I was waking up. First thing I saw, there was a cross in my room hanging on the wall. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I got it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been quite a journey. It's something I wish that nobody ever have to go on, but has definitely helped me grow as a human, as a podcaster. And I like everything that bad happens in my life, I'll turn it kind of like take lemons and turn it into lemonade.
There you go.
I do great things. I mean, I have a voice, so I'm going to use my voice for kids with cancer now. So that's one of the things I do. So I really appreciate it. And if God got me this far, I feel like put me on this path for a reason, right? So God puts me on a path, I just go that way.
There you go. That's all you can do, man.
Sure.
Faith for me has done a lot in my life, and it has kept me on track. It is, focused a lot of things that I've gone through. I've put it through the lens of faith and trusting in God in those moments where you don't realize that you don't have as much control as you thought you do. Is you take those things, you put them at the foot of the cross, and you let God do His work. That's awesome, man. I'm glad you recognize that and put that in God's hands and said, "Hey, this is yours, not mine."
Yes. Yeah, it was way too heavy a load for me, So it's kind of crazy. I posted that on social media a while back, like right when I first got it. I said, like, I can't handle it. Like, I can't do this by myself. I gave all the heavy stuff to God. And actually, somebody chastised me for that. Like, oh yeah, so what? Because you got God. Like, what about somebody that doesn't have God? They just got to do it by themselves. I'm like, and you need to you need to, soul search or something, man.
That's how that works, brother. Like if you don't have God, then you got yourself. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry you don't have God on your side. Like, I mean, he's there for you. All you gotta do is reach out. All you guys ask, and he's there for you.
All you got to do is ask.
Yeah,
No one is beyond redemption.
exactly. My very first bout with cancer was my mom got cancer 30 years ago, and she died. My mom was the most giving, loving person I've ever met in my life, and she died at the age of 52 years old. My kids were they're just babies, so she was just a fresh grandma, and it hurt a lot. Like I went through like a 5-year depression so bad that I cursed. Actually, I hate to say this, but I cursed God for like 5 years, and but every time I cursed God, I was just deeper and deeper in depression. I was just in a bad place, right? And I was in and out of the doctors for 5 years. I had shingles, pneumonia, chronic headaches, and it was rotating. It never went away. Finally, after 5 years of my doctor treating me, he finally said, Richard, what the hell's going on with you, man? Because you're way too young for all these issues. I was only 30 years old. I said, man, my mom passed away 5 years ago, and I just can't shake it, man. I'm a mess. And he said, you know what? If your mom was here right now, she saw your condition, what would she think? And I was like, I should be super upset. And he was like, yeah, you have to live your life the way your mom would want you to live. So that night, I was like, that changed my life. It like something snapped. I went home and I prayed and I apologized for God that my apologies for cursing you for the last 5 years. I'm a spoiled brat. So a lot of people don't have their mom for 30 years. So thank you for giving me this loving person in my life for 30 years. That was a blessing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to change my life. I'm sorry, it was just, that's how it is. And then that night, and I had shingles around my eye at that time. The doctor was afraid I was going to lose my eye because it was so close to my eye, shingles. That night after I prayed, I went to bed. My mom came out of like this portal, came down and sat down and she rubbed my face and she was like, Richie, I don't want to come back. I love it here. It's beautiful here. And she's going on and on. And like, it was like, she was lit, like sitting there. I could smell her, hear her breathing, like hear her talking. She was touching me. And that morning I woke up and it was the first night in 5 years I actually slept all night. I woke up, I ran downstairs. I told my wife, like, you're not going to believe this. My mom came out. She said she loves it where she said it's beautiful there. And she goes to me, go look in the mirror. I'm like, why? She goes, your shingles are gone. Swear to God, I went to the mirror and just the day before the doctor's like, you're going to lose your eye. My shingles were completely gone. And all it did was like, a little repent, apologize to God and put my faith back in God. I was born Christian. I've been Catholic. I've done all the sacraments, but I stepped away because I was so angry. But when I got back in, dude, he blessed me. So I'm here to bless other people now.
Yeah, the cool thing about that story is, we can do so much to God in terms of, turning away from him and sinning against him and doing all these things that he just doesn't want us to do. And it only takes one small moment for us to come back into God's grace. And what you did was you came before God reverently and you thanked him first and foremost before anything else. And in my mind, that's the key. When we come before God with a reverent heart and thankfulness, then that opens up the door to his presence. And so if we have that holy fear in our life, man, that's the gateway to everything.
Absolutely. 100% believe that. And I used to not tell that story. It took me, that was 30 years ago. It took me probably 20 plus years to even tell that story because I thought people are like, man, you're crazy, man. Your mom could come out of no damn portal and sit down next to you. And I'm like, I'm telling you, like, I don't know how to explain it, man. But like the portal was crazy. So like this thing opened up and my relatives that had passed before all lined this like a hallway. Like my grandparents were there, aunts, uncles, cousins, people that passed away, and my mom. And it was like my mom walked right down the middle of them like they were sentries or something. And she came out and sat down and talked to me, and like I was just like blown away. It was like the most moving thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, I heard a guy talk once about, dreams is one way God communicates with us.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, like, why is that? I don't understand. And he kind of went into it further, and he's like, you gotta recognize God is so powerful and so supernatural that to communicate with us face to face, like we wouldn't be able to stand it or to take it. So when we move into the dream world, that is a place where supernaturally he can more communicate with us, and a lot of people do experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole another level that I don't understand, but I'm a
Yeah,
believer now, right?
absolutely.
So let's get into your story. What branch of service did you're still serving, correct?
Yep. Still serving 15 years in the Army.
All right on. How about that Army Navy game the other day?
Yeah, that was a good game. It was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that was an amazing game. The great thing about that game is like the Navy has been very good this year, and the Army
Hmm.
they haven't been that great this year, but they're kind of mediocre. No
Yeah.
matter who is what that year, when those two teams come together, records go out the window. It doesn't matter who's better. Like
Oh yeah.
it's a dogfight.
Yep. It's a typical rivalry game.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the best part about that game is, none of these kids they're not playing to play in the next level or anything, and so they're just playing for heart, pure heart, love of the game, and love of country. Man, it's amazing. That's one of my favorite games to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what year did you join the army?
So I joined the Army 2010, right after I graduated college. I came into the Army, uh, went the OCS route, Officer Candidate School route.
Okay.
So had a 4-year degree from Southern Wesleyan University, which is right next to Clemson University. For all the D1 football fans out there, you'll know where Clemson's at. Yeah, came in 2010, went to Officer Candidate School, went to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. Did my basic training there, and then slid right over to Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning, and came in that way.
Awesome. How long is OCS?
OCS is, at that time, it's a 12-week program.
Is that the very first portion of your military? Like, unless people go to boot camp. So is that your version of boot camp?
Well, so I had to do traditional basic training with everyone who comes in enlisted. Once I did that 9-week stint, then I slid over to OCS and then started I guess OCS is the boot camp version for officers. So
Yeah.
once you've made it through basic training, you go on to OCS, and if you can pass that, then you get your commission as a lieutenant. And then from there, you go to your branch qualification course.
Yeah. What is your job?
Yeah, so I started out as a signal officer. So for the first 10 years of my career, I was signal, and I primarily was tactical my entire career. I've been embedded with combat arms units at all kinds of levels, cavalry squadrons, combat aviation brigades. I've been all over the place. So for 10 years, I did that as a Squadron 6 communications officer, and then moved over to combat aviation with 1st Infantry Division, Fort Riley, Kansas. And I deployed with those guys out to Afghanistan in 2017. And then after that, I was able to kind of take a break a little bit. And the Army's like, hey, man, you've been rowing pretty hard for the last 5-6 years. You got your key development time as an officer done. What do you want to do now? And I was like, man, I'm really tired. I would love to take a knee somewhere or kind of do something that's a little different to kind of change my focus. And they're like, okay, how about you do a broadening assignment? And I was like, I don't even know what a broadening assignment is. I've been tactical my entire career, and been embedded with all these units and just going to the field left and right. And they're like, hey, we're going to send you to ROTC, college ROTC, and you're going to go instruct cadets and help them commission as lieutenants. And I was like, that sounds awesome. And they're like, how does Florida State University sound? And I was like, D1 school, good football. Yeah, I'll take it. Let's go. So did that for a while, for 3 years. And that was probably one of the most rewarding assignments that I ever had, being able to, really instruct and coach those cadets to become officers. Because I had a lot of mistakes up to that point that I was able to help them understand and see from a vantage point of not teaching them a bunch of academics, but like real life military skills. Like when you get to your first unit, how do you integrate with your platoon sergeant? How do you deal with enlisted? How do you deal with NCOs? How do you treat them? How do you be humble? All the leadership things that I wish somebody would have taught me. So that was a cool little assignment. And then from there, it was I was kind of tired of the Signal Corps. I didn't really feel challenged by it anymore, and I was like, I really wish I could do something different. And then a VTIP opportunity, voluntary transfer incentive program opportunity popped up where I could switch branches in the Army. So I decided to go functional, which is basically you kind of leave the command stuff behind. You don't really have soldiers. You're not leading soldiers per se, but you specialize in a very specific capacity for the Army in helping them. And what I chose to do was modeling and simulations. So helping the Army build models and simulations for training, testing, prototypes, all those things. And that's what I've done for the past 5 years is modeling simulation.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long were you in Afghanistan?
I was there for 9 months, did a 9 month rotation there. Came into Bagram, spent a little bit of time in Bagram, then made my way up to Kunduz area and hung out in Kunduz. Went to a little place called Camp Pamir, which is a small little ANA outpost, and we would stage medevac operations from there. So I had soldiers that were stationed there to help run the medevac operations in terms of the communication structure there. So spent some time there. I got to see all kind of crazy stuff, cool stuff. I got to watch aviators do what they do the best. And those guys really have my respect more than anything else. I've spent 6 years of my career in aviation, attached to aviation units. And watching the medevac pilots do their thing with the amount of risk they took was jaw dropping, and really blessed to be a part of that unit, a General Support Aviation battalion. So yeah, that was a wild 9 months.
That that time in Afghanistan, how'd that did like change your outlook on life?
Yeah, it did. I had done like a rotation before that to Kuwait, and they gave us a combat patch for that, and I still don't understand why. I think I wore it for the year I was there, and then I took it off and never put it back on again. So I had in my mind what a rotation looked like, and I was like, yeah, this will be the same thing. And when we landed in the C-17, I remember stepping out, and I was like, this is not the same rotation at all. This is different. I remember walking out of the back of the C-17 and looking around, I was like, dude, this looks like Mars. This is wild. The landscape's different, and it just felt different, and you knew you were in a much different setting and scenario, and things got a lot more real quick. Within the first couple of days there, we were taking rocket fire to Bagram, which is a normal thing. I mean, everybody gets rocket fire at Bagram. But for someone who's never seen that, that's really different to see the CRAM go off, and it's firing out thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds to take these things down before they get there. Um, for me, I instantly understood that, hey, this is a dangerous place, and there are people that are actually trying to kill you, even though you're not going outside the wire. I never went outside the wire. The closest thing I did was, I flew a lot that rotation with, everyone to check on my soldiers and go to different places where I had soldiers stationed, and we would take fire sometimes on those flights. But I instantly understood that the potential of getting hurt or killed is real out here.
Yeah.
And so in terms of my outlook on life, I learned to value things a lot better, especially when I came back from deployment. Things that I didn't really value as much, I found myself valuing a lot more. Just being able to go to the convenience store and get a bottle of water, or something simple where everything is a deliberate decision in Afghanistan. When you're walking around, you're doing things, especially when you're outside of the bigger bases like Bagram and you're in a place like Camp Pamir where it's an ANA outpost. Like, everything's a deliberate decision in what you're doing. So you got to be like, really cognizant and have your head on a swivel and all those things. But I found myself finding God a lot more there than I thought I would. The rotation was long. It felt long. It felt like I was never going to get back home to see my family. That was the first time I left my son. My son was, I would say, probably 2 or 3 at the time. So when I left and seeing him, screaming and crying because he understood what was about to happen, man, that broke me down. I remember getting on the bus, and there wasn't a dry eye on that bus, because no matter how old you get, no matter how long you've been in, however many rotations you've done, it all feels the same every time you do it, from the first time to the last time. That heartbreak doesn't change as much. It's still very real in there. When I got back from that rotation, I was instantly surprised when my son ran up to me. He jumped in my arms. I could instantly tell, dude, he's a lot more nimble now. He could jump. He's speaking. He's saying full sentences to me, and I was just like, dude, this is wild. Like I'm stepping back into a different part of his life that I've missed for a while. But yeah, it helped me value things a lot better coming back.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's why I only did one term in the Navy because I knew I wasn't married at the time, but I knew that I wanted to be married and have a family. And I just like I could not leave my family. Like
Yeah,
my hats off to people that can because I mean, it takes a special person to leave for 9, 10 months. It's hard.
yeah. I would say too that it'd be a lot harder if I didn't have such an amazing wife. My wife is really the reason why I'm still kicking it 15 years and trying to make the full 20. If I didn't have her and her support and how much, she almost loves the Army more than I do. And the fact that she keeps me grounded and helps me get through things. Without her, I probably would have got out before 10 years and just walked away from it. But yeah, she's been the big part of my success.
Yeah, that's amazing. Definitely takes a solid wife to have a military career. Did you ever see your faith in God slipping when you were in a war zone? Like how could like I'm thinking like how could there be a God if all this death and destruction is around here?
Yeah, I've kind of thought about that the last couple of months as I kind of reflect on my career. The last few years of my life have been a recalibration of my faith and really growing deeper in God and getting more intimate with Him. And, I thought back to my rotation and kind of how I acted during that rotation. And, it gets really busy a lot during those combat deployments in terms of, we're actively doing combat operations and, there's ebbs and flows in how active it gets. And when it does get active and there's a lot of, activity happening, you're up for, it could be 12, 13, 14 hours at a time, 15 hours at a time. And you almost kind of forget some of the routine things you've done before. And that's what I found myself doing is, you know, not reading the Bible for stints and periods of time, coming to the sudden realization after a week, like, man, I haven't prayed in a week. Like what is going on?
Yeah.
And I instantly realized, hey, if you're gonna make it through this, man, you gotta be deliberate with your prayer with God and rely on Him because I felt myself getting depressed even in Afghanistan just because I wanted to be back with my family and things were just it felt like doom and gloom all the time because all you're dealing with is combat. You're seeing death, you're seeing destruction. Me from afar and watching some special forces guys that our unit helped out a lot. I was able to watch some of those feeds from afar and just seeing it constantly day in and day out. It was kind of like doom and gloom.
Yeah.
We had a suicide bomber make it onto to Bagram and detonate himself in the midst of about 300 to 400 people right before I want to say it was Thanksgiving 5K run we were going to do. Detonated himself in the middle of that, and the carnage and destruction from that was immense. And for everyone there, no matter what they were doing, things got real quick. The whole heightened security of the base ramped up. It was a blackout for 3 or 4 days, so they could notify the family for those who didn't make it. And my wife struggled with that a lot because I was pretty consistent on communicating with her. And when I was finally able to communicate with her, she's like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Well, there's a blackout. There's an incident." She's like, "Oh yeah, I saw it on the news and everything." And she's like, "I was just praying that you weren't a part of that." And I was like, "Well, luckily I was about a mile away, which is basically the other side of Bagram in that sense." But yeah, you will find that you lose yourself when you're trying to focus on your job and you're trying to be as effective and efficient as you can. You're constantly thinking about, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do in the next 24, 48, 72 hours to make sure we're successful? And there's a lot of responsibilities you have. So you tend to forget to weigh those things and say, I know I have a responsibility to do this, but I also have a responsibility to be intimate with God and make sure I'm spending time with God. Yeah, that was an eye opener for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think you bring up a good point. A lot of people don't think about it this way. With the cameras and everything in the battlefield, your spouse or your family's basically almost watching it in real time. It's got to be tough on the entire family.
Yeah, it's even crazier today with the Ukraine and Russian conflict. Social media is
Yeah, exactly.
it's become a weapon. It is a weapon of public opinion and influence in terms of trying to control the narrative on who's winning and who's losing. And so you're going to start to see a lot of families see their loved ones being killed, probably before they're even notified, with as much drone footage as being taken, how UAVs are being used in conflict now. So yeah, I can only imagine if we get into a large scale near peer conflict and drones are used and things of that nature, the whole dynamic of warfare is going to change, and especially how our family views it and sees it.
Yeah. I've been kind of watching these YouTube videos on the guy that invented Oculus. He sold it to Facebook, and so he went to Facebook with his product, and he was working there. But Facebook ended up firing him because he made a donation to Donald Trump's campaign, whatever. So now he's like, well, I'm a billionaire with nothing to do. What do I do? So he's kind of like the real life Tony Stark. He's building like these war machines for the government, and he talks about all these drones and like the next generation fighters gonna be like robots and drones, and like he just built a huge factory in Ohio where he's building all this stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, all this AI stuff is just gonna take over and fighting the wars next.
Yeah, yeah. AI is a big part of my job and what I do now, and it is definitely the future of combat. I've been saying for at least last year or so, whoever's able to harness AI effectively and efficiently will win the next large scale near peer combat and war, in my
Yeah,
mind.
it's crazy, man. That stuff's way over my head. So you mentioned that you flew into Afghanistan on a
So I went on a C-17.
C.
Yeah, I went C-17 from Fort Riley, Kansas, straight to Bagram.
So how was that?
That was pretty cool. It was a good way to fly. Luckily I got some advice beforehand, and I packed my little hammock and set it up between 2 points of contact in the aircraft. Looked at the crew chief and said, "Hey, am I good to go?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're good, man. Go for it." And I conked out for 8 9 hours in the hammock. But what I didn't realize is I set myself up in the back of the plane, which is the coldest place to be. And then I woke up freezing. And not only that, the hammock was doing this for so long. And I woke up and I was kind of dizzy. I was like, man, I got to get my feet underneath me. So then I learned on the way back, set up the opposite direction towards the front of the plane, and you're good to go. So yeah, I flew C-17 there and C-17 back. So I was one of the first ones in, and the last two guys out for my unit. So,
Wow, it's pretty crazy.
yeah.
Is that thing pressurized, or like it's not like a normal airplane, right?
Yeah, it's pressurized, not to the extent of a civilian airplane is. Super loud. You good luck trying to listen to a movie or something while you're on the plane. You gotta have some earbuds in and something over top of that to keep it. But it's pretty loud and it can get kind of cold in there. But I mean, it's a cargo plane. It's meant to haul equipment, and we were able to smash in there 2 3 helicopters at a time, fold it up inside there. So as you're flying, you're like, man, I'm 30 something thousand feet in the air, and I got 3 helicopters looking at me in this C-17, and this is cool. This is how we're going to combat.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. There's also something I want to touch that you mentioned. You said when you came home, just the fact that you could walk into a store and buy a bottle of water. I feel like this country, citizens of this country, take simple things like that for granted. And it drives me nuts when they trash our country, the country that has given them every opportunity to do whatever the hell they want, but they trash it. And it like really baffles me. And I'm like, you should go to Mombasa, Kenya, and see how these people live. I mean, I've been there, or even the Philippines or Singapore, Australia. I've been all over the place. But you need to get outside of your little comfort zone and actually see what you're talking about before you sound like a fool.
Yeah, I looked at people in Afghanistan when I first got there, and I was able to see how they were living, and I instantly realized, like, man, how good do we have it back in the United States? The ability to just, get water anytime we want, grab a snack anytime you want, comfort, all the things you take for granted, heat, air conditioning, all these things. And when I come back and I see everyone getting upset over trivial things, it really made me upset. And I found myself having to catch myself at moments and times, like wanting to talk to strangers in public and be like, dude, what are you getting upset about? Like, do you realize how bad it is halfway across the world? But then I realized, I'm like, they don't know any better. All
Yeah,
they know is this. All they know is comfort, entitlement. Like, this is all they know. So it makes you thankful for the country that we do live in, and the fact that we can live that way. But it definitely is a double edged sword.
it is. Yeah. So, um, my ship went into Mombasa, Kenya, and I'm walking through the town, and this lady, she doesn't speak a lick of English. And what I quickly found out, she was trying to give me her newborn baby because she knew I was an American sailor. And she was like, and she was crying. I was like, that's how much she loved her baby and how much she wanted her, like that was probably 40 years ago. So this baby would be 40 years old right now. From what I saw of Mombasa, Kenya, there's a very good chance that person's not even alive today.
Yeah,
It was the most disease-ridden place I've ever saw in my life. Actual, like, elephantitis was rampant in there. They had no air conditioning, no refrigeration at all, no ice. Like, when you go in somewhere and you order a drink, there's no ice. You get whatever you order, it's hot. It's like and when I come back home, people are complaining about the dumbest things. I'm just like, I don't even know what to say right now.
yeah. I never used to be able to put into words the love God has for us, in the sense that He sacrificed His only Son for us. And it kind of hit me these last couple of years, thinking like, would I be willing to sacrifice my own son for any stranger in this world? And the answer in my mind was no. I'm not willing to do that. But the fact that He was willing to do that puts it into perspective. So when you see people in the world who are willing to take their kids and just put them anywhere other than where they're at, and know that they will probably never see them ever again, just in hopes that they'll have a better life,
Yeah,
man, how can you not look at that situation, have empathy, and want a better world so that
exactly.
someone doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, that moment in time literally changed my life, changed my entire outlook on life. So, and I go back to that story all the time. It really shaped me, like I mean, it's hard not to take things for granted. You get caught up in day to day American life.
Yeah,
Super hard not to get, but I go back and I'm like, oh my God, this lady had so much love for this little baby. She was willing to give it to a total stranger to take it to the land of, hey, you can do whatever the hell you want.
yeah,
Just roll up your sleeves, get to work, and you can achieve whatever's in here. You can do it.
yeah,
It's not like that in most countries,
yeah.
and
It's not.
we definitely take that for granted here. But hey, that's the beauty of joining the military. Because if I don't join the Navy when I'm an 18-year-old kid, I would be one of those idiots walking around complaining too, right?
Yeah, I've always said that I think people should be forced to do 4 years in the military.
But yeah,
It gives you really good perspective, and even if you don't decide to stay, the guys and gals that I've seen that have done 4 year stints have always said what they've learned in the military, what they've seen, how it's changed them was all for the better.
yeah,
Very rarely have I ever seen anyone who says, "Man, I hated my time in the military." They didn't necessarily like some of the units they were a part of, and they always have gripes and complaints. But hindsight 2020, looking back, they're like, "It was good for me." And I think it would do a lot for our country if we did, at least make people do 4 year stints. They would come
yeah,
out with a lot more discipline, a lot more perspective, and we would probably have a lot less issues.
yeah. Definitely better outlook on life, that's for sure. Yeah, so I was in the Navy. I absolutely love the Navy. Everything about the Navy. Love the Navy. The funny thing is, I have an Army tattoo, but no Navy tattoos.
That's cool.
Both my grandfathers served in World War II. My one grandfather, he was in the Navy, and he was on battleships back then. Awesome stories. I used to love listening to him. But my grandfather in the Army, he served in Old Hickory 30th Division, and his unit fought Hitler's SS division not once but twice and beat him both times. So, out of respect for what that man did for our country, I wear his logo on my arm, and I refuse to have a Navy tattoo. Because what I did, I couldn't hold a candle what that man did. So, out of
Dude,
respect.
that was a generation right there. That was a generation like no other. My grandpa was World War II as well, and I didn't realize it at the time before I came in the military because I did a lot of research into him afterwards. I kind of talked to him before I came in the military before he passed, but I never really asked him what he did, anything like that. And I learned after the fact he was a cable dog, so he was a commo guy in First Infantry Division of all places in World War II. And that's like, man, how fitting is that? I'm a commo, dude in the army and serving with the First Infantry Division too. So that was kind of surreal to realize later after the fact.
Yeah, my grandfather that was in the Navy, so he was actually in boot camp when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor.
Hmm.
So when he graduated boot camp, the first thing they did was they sent him to Pearl Harbor to help clean up the destruction there, right? So he was like filling body bags and doing all this nasty, cleanup work, right? And he would tell me all these stories. 30 years later, I became a sailor. I was stationed on the USS Carl Vinson. At the time, it was the largest floating object in the world, aircraft carrier. It was brand new and brand spanking new. We pulled into, I was stationed in California, Alameda, California. And so I pulled into Pearl Harbor a couple different times. And the Arizona is still a commissioned ship out of respect to the men that are at the bottom of the ocean. It's still sitting in there. So every time that we pulled in the port or out of port, the Navy mans the rails, put your dress uniform on, you stand on the outer edge of the ship. As we're pulling in, I could see the Arizona down there and still oozing up oil. And then the captain gets on the 1MC and makes the call for attention and then hand salute. So I'm saluting the very site that my grandfather was at 30, 40 years prior, cleaning up, the aftermath. Man, I tell you what, man, the tears were just streaming down my face, man. It was the most surreal moment of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. That's one of my proudest moments to wear a uniform that my grandfathers had wore and be at the same spot and to see the you could see like the outlines of the ship because I was I'm 100 feet up
Hmm.
the water looking down. You could see the outline and it oozing up oil, and just knowing that there's men inside there still to this day, and I'm just like, wow, I just lost it, man. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's pretty wild. I did 9 months at the Naval War College, doing my CGSC credit, where I was able to get a master's degree from there. But that was my first experience with the Navy and how they do primary military education for officers and other people that are coming up in the ranks in the Navy. So I got to see how they operated. I got to see some of the considerations for how they fight, and I was thinking to myself, dude, there's no way I could do the Navy. I can't be on a ship for an extended period of time and knowing that that's the only piece of structure I can stand on in the middle of the ocean. I would lose my mind. There's no way. So I tip my hat to you guys. I'll stay on the ground.
Yeah, I mean it's not for everybody, but I mean I look at you guys and like, man, I don't want to dig foxholes and sleep in the dirt and eat MREs either. So at least I had a warm cot every night.
That's true. Yeah.
So, everybody has their pluses and their minuses. But I think the longest stint that we did without seeing land was 107 days.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're out we went from like Asia down to Australia,
Oh
then
wow.
back. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was, like you said, it was tough back then, and you're just like, "Damn, let's just get this cruise over with." But like when
Yeah.
I look back at it now, man, it was like it did so much for me.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
great.
I think in those moments you're like you said, you just can't wait to get back because it feels like it's so bad. Then later on, you look back and you're like, man, that was pretty formative for me.
Yeah,
Able to go through that and learn some of the lessons that I learned, and I'm glad I went through that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
yeah. One of my favorite things I used to do after flight ops was over with at night, usually around 10, 11 o'clock at night. I would stand on the flight deck, and it was quiet, and there's no lights on the ship because you don't want the bad guys to see you. So we're at red lights and everything. You're just standing there and to see the sky with no light perversion, like
Yeah.
it's the most surreal thing you ever seen in your life. Standing on a ship in the middle of the damn ocean, looking at the sky, you see stars that you know just scattered. It's crazy. Wish I had a camera back then.
Yeah, yeah. I've been on a couple of cruises and I've kind of witnessed that at night, but nothing like what you're talking about. I bet that's even more surreal.
Yeah, it's man, you could see like the Milky Way or like all these. Like, if you're a stargazer, go rent yourself a boat and go out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, I had a couple of months like that in Afghanistan where you kind of look up in the middle of the night and you're just like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
this is different. I don't see
yeah,
this back
it's
home
wild.
in Kansas or South Carolina or wherever. It's definitely a different part of the world.
Yeah, I was a big mama's boy, right? So, and I missed my mom dearly. So, what I would do at night, I would stand on the ship and I would stare at the moon, and I'd wonder myself, I wonder if my mom's looking at the moon right now, also. So that was my connection back to her.
That's cool.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not scared to say that. I'm a
Hey,
mama's boy.
it's all good. Probably the same way, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have your mom, you don't really have nothing, right?
That's right. That's right.
So, what's one lesson in life that taught you the hard way?
One lesson in life that taught me the hard way. I think the biggest, especially in the military, is the extreme importance of maintaining relationships. I've always been very headstrong as, a military officer, and in what I do in the military can be very abrasive at times. I grew up in tactical combat arms units my entire first, 10 years of my career. So I learned to be very abrasive, be very direct, alpha mentality. And as a captain, in Afghanistan, this actually happened in Afghanistan. My counterpart at the brigade level, I'm at the battalion level as the battalion S6 for the GSAB. So the brigade S6 was a major at the time. We had all kinds of issues with her and the brigade S6 shop in terms of getting the right ComSec for our equipment to make sure our equipment worked properly. And up until that point, it wasn't an issue. It's like we could fight through it if we had to fight through it an extra couple of days. But then it was like, no, man, like we're doing missions, and seventh group is going out to do some hits in Kunduz, and Medevac's got to fly, and Apache's got to be on standby to go do some stuff. So ComSec has to be right, and it cannot be missed. If it's missed, then we're scrapping entire missions, and that's bad. So we ran into an issue where we didn't have the ComSec we needed because it wasn't working right. It wasn't loading into our radios the right way. And so we got back with her and her shop and was like, "Ma'am, this ComSec is not working. Please send your people down to help us understand." They came down, they couldn't figure it out. And then finally it was like, we're a day away, and I was like, I've got to do something. And I told my commander, I was like, this is a big no-no in the signal community, but I'm going to go to somebody else for ComSec. And I found another unit on Bagram that I actually went and got ComSec from, and it worked because they packaged it the right way in order for it to be loaded properly. So it worked. And then I let her know. I was like, hey ma'am, just to make the mission work, went and got ComSec from somebody else. It worked. It's good to go. If you guys want to come take a look at it and kind of figure out what's going on, be more than happy. Well, that was a very bad thing. And the brigade executive officer actually ended up coming down to our battalion headquarters and walked into the battalion headquarters, and everybody kind of perks up when the brigade XO steps in. You're like, oh man. And he's like, where is Mike Cuddy? Where is he? And I heard him down the hallway say that, and I was like, man, this is bad. And I popped out of the hallway and I was like, hey sir, I'm here. He's like, let's go, you and me now. I was like, oh no. And then, my battalion commander kind of pokes his head out, and the brigade XO was like, I'm going to take him for a minute, sir. I'll be back. And he's like, all right. And we walked outside, and he's like, he put his arm around me, and he's like, hey, he's like, you are one of the best S6s we have in this brigade, probably the best. He's like, but you can't maintain a relationship for nothing. And the fact that you just burned this relationship with your brigade S6 is a pretty big thing, and you don't even realize it yet. And if you hope to make it to the next level as a major lieutenant colonel, you're going to have to figure out how to maintain relationships even when you don't want to. He's like, so there was definitely a way you could have handled that you didn't do it, and let me teach you. and he taught me, how to navigate that situation to get a better result, so I don't burn that relationship. So that's always stuck with me, and I've always taught that to my cadets and all the captains that have been underneath me later in my career, and trying to help them understand that maintaining relationships with people is important. You can easily burn a relationship and walk away from it, but you may need that person later on in life, and so don't burn that relationship.
Say a 17-year-old kid walks up to you, tells you he's thinking about joining the military. What type of advice would you give him?
Don't join the military. I say that only because, and this is me being honest and real with you. Like, I'm not gonna blow smoke. Is the military's changed? It has changed a lot, especially the last 5 years. In how we do things, the amount of trust we put into people. And I might not say don't join, but I would say take a hard look at what you want to do, and make sure you talk to some people that are actively doing what you want to do, to make sure that it is something you want to do for the next 4 years of your life. When I first came in, it was a much different military than it is now. There was a lot more trust, a lot more confidence in your ability to do things, less micromanagement. Your decisions weren't questioned as much as they are now. It's about to be my next podcast episode is on wisdom and discernment as a military leader, and how you develop that and to be able to make decisions. But now every decision you make is very much questioned, it's scrutinized to the point where you make one little wrong decision in someone's eyes, and it may be the right decision in your eyes, but it was wrong in theirs. That's it. You're gone. You're done. You're fired. You moved on to the next assignment. Could be detrimental to your career. And so, like, for me, it's just changed so much in a negative way. And I hope we can regain some traction on that, and get better at that. Right now, I look at my son, like would I want my son to come into this military right now? Hard answer is no. I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I absolutely wouldn't. Especially some of the leaders I've seen, some of the leaders I've worked for, I wouldn't trust my son with them. But there's a lot of leaders I've worked for too, where I'm like, absolutely, I trust my son with you. Take him to Afghanistan. You got him. But I've seen a lot more worse than I've seen good, which is the unfortunate thing. But that's just my specific point of view. Other people are going to have different viewpoints. It's still good for you. I mean, you get a lot out of it if you did join. But my advice right now would be make sure you talk to someone that is doing what you want to do, and understand what the day to day looks like in role or capacity that you want to serve in the military. A lot of the soldiers that I've had didn't get that opportunity, and they've always lamented that was something they wish they would have been able to do, is be able to talk to someone who was doing communications in the military, because they a lot of them said, like, I wouldn't have done this. I would have done something else. I still would have done the military. I would have done something different. So yeah, that would be the piece of advice I give. Just make sure you talk to someone who's doing what you're doing, what you want to do, and make sure it's right for you before you just commit to anything the recruiter gives you. Because recruiters are sneaky; they'll get you.
Yeah.
They'll entice you with anything and everything. They got to make numbers more than anybody else, and those guys, I tip my hat to, and that's a hard job to do in the military.
Yeah.
They will tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to sign that contract, go to MEPS, and get on the bus and go to basic training.
That's one thing that hasn't changed over the last 40 years is the damn recruiters, man. They will tell you anything to get you to sign that line and get you on that bus.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that because my son, he'll be 26 this year. My vision, ever since he was a little kid growing up, I was like, yeah, I would love if he joined the military. Seeing what I saw, but then the tides, you could see the tides turn, and I kind of backed off on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say if you're going to do it, man, go Air Force. Air Force is the way to go.
Yeah,
They do a really good job of growing their airmen, both leadership wise and skill wise, in the trades they do, much better than the Army, from what I can speak to, just the Army. But the Air Force guys seem to have a lot better skills in terms of retention and knowledge and skills, and their leadership ability. So I would say look at the Air Force first.
yeah. I hate to say that, but I'd probably agree with you. But I'm still gonna make fun of everybody that was in the Air Force. It's my job.
Yeah, they got an easy life. I'll give them that.
But again, that's why we hate them. So yeah, we got like 8 to 10 minutes left. So I just want to give you time to talk about what you're doing today. And like, can we talk about your podcast for the last 10 minutes?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But my podcast I started about 7 months ago. It's called Serving with Faith, and it's all centered around Christian military discipleship. And it's an area in the military that I found was lacking. I couldn't really find much content on how to be a better Christian military leader. I've got a lot of content on how to be a good leader in general. A lot of good stuff from Jocko Willink and some of the foremost experts in leadership in the military, but nothing that was Christ centered. And I'm like, man, I've got all this experience. And my wife has been saying for years, she's like, the things you talk about in terms of leadership and how that relates to being a follower of Christ, like you really need to put that out there somewhere. And so I gathered up enough courage this past 7 months to really start a podcast and do that. And I've been lucky enough in my career to serve with some Christian soldiers. And so, the a better part of my podcast has been interviewing them and getting their perspectives on all kinds of leadership traits, humility, building godly character, all these things that you can do to be a better Christian military leader. So that's what it's centered on. That's what it's focused on. So military leaders out there who are looking for leadership lessons and discipleship advice in terms of military leadership, come check it out. Serving with Faith podcast. Got another episode coming up here pretty soon. Be probably a 4-part series dealing with wisdom and discernment and how to make better decisions in a day and age where everything you do is scrutinized. So it should be pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll definitely put some links in my show description so
Well, cool.
everybody
Appreciate that.
can jump over and see what you're all about.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you jumping on and
yeah,
spending
man.
an hour with us. It was
Absolutely.
great.
Appreciate the invite.
And so what's your plans? 5 more years, then you retire, or are you going to stay in after 20? Or
Yeah, no, 5 more years. We just kind of got orders for our next assignment. I finished up a master's degree here at the University of Central Florida for the Army. Another broadening opportunity they gave me. Like, hey, go be a full-time student for 2 years and get a master's degree, and then let us use you somewhere in the Army to better modeling and simulations for the Army for the next 5 years. So I'll move on to Fort Riley or Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and hopefully I'm going to do 2 back-to-back stints there and finish out my career. Do 20 years and I'll call it quits, walk away, and then we'll see what else God's got for me from that point. But yeah, 5 more years and I'll be done.
that's awesome. But Kansas is no South Florida.
It is not. It's going to get really cold really quick, and acclimating that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I grew up in the winter, so I'm from Michigan, so now I'm in Tennessee, and I love it down here.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you jumping on. Stick around while I hit the stop button so we make sure we're all uploaded.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it again.
If you stuck around listening to us for this long, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode.